I've carefully marked the grain line, so I drew a line right on the thread. You can pull a thread if you prefer. And I marked another line perpendicular to it on the crosswise grain. And now I'm going to carefully line those up, making sure that I have my center back right on grain. I'm putting an anchor pin down here so that when I tug on this, it won't slide. If I put it in going the other way, it would slide up and down like that. So you want your pin to go in the opposite direction that you're going to be pinning. And I can feel where that is. And then I'll put another pin in so that it's exactly where it belongs. Okay, so now I have that on the center back. I'm going to put in a few more anchor pins so that I can tug on it and it will stay where it belongs. When you're working on a live person, sometimes I'll anchor it with tape, or I'll anchor it to whatever they're wearing while I'm draping, like a leotard or foundation underwear or something. So this line I want to keep straight, level, and then I'll put an anchor pin on that. And when I'm looking to see if that's straight and level, I'm going to rotate it to make sure that it looks level. I might even get out a ruler and measure up from the bottom to make sure it's level. So that's going to hold still there, and I can put my dart here, and it will hold still here, and I can put my dart down there. So I'm going to start with clipping my neck now. I have to get this to lay nice and smooth before I can find where that dart goes. And I'm going to lower her a little bit so that you can see that a little better. So when I'm finding my neck shape, I'm going to lay the scissors into where this plane change comes down. So we've got the plane change from the back and the plane change from the neck, and they happen to meet exactly where that seam line is. So I'm coming 1/4 of an inch away from the center back, and I'm just laying the fabric in and clipping to it. That usually works just fine, but I need to go a little bit deeper. So now I've got it into the stitching line that's existing, and I'm smoothing the fabric so that I'm only focusing on this area right here. And I'm aiming straight in. I'm not cutting with the grain of the fabric. I'm moving over about 1/4 of an inch with every cut. Full scale, you might go with 1/2 an inch. Well, that one's much closer to 1/2. And I need one more little cut right there. So when I've put in my clips, I'm thinking in terms of a wagon wheel spoke, and I'm aiming straight in at the neck with each cut. I'm not cutting on the straight of grain every time. I'm cutting into the imaginary center. And I've got a little bit of a wrinkle right there, so I'm going to put in one more clip. Okay, so that's laying nice and smooth. And I'm being gentle with the fabric. I'm smoothing it out. I'm not pulling on it. I'm letting it find where it belongs. So I'm following that around, and I'm finding the edge of that shoulder that I've marked. I'm putting in another pin. Now I could put the pin in right here because that's nice and smooth, but that leaves my dart out on the side. And I could put it there and just rotate it back later, but I'm looking for putting it as close to where it belongs as possible. So as I smooth this across, if I were working on making something that was a princess line, I'll do that in a different video, but I would keep this vertical too, and then I would have a lot of darting right here. For this video, I want to get rid of as much of that as possible without changing the fit. So because the side seam is like a dart area, I can move some of this dart over into the side seam. And I'm going to put it here. And that's going to make the grain a little bit different on this side. But since I'm going to cover having a balanced back dart in the princess line video, I'm just going to go ahead and push out some of that so I have a smaller dart here. Okay, so this one I'm pushing back up. If I look at my side seam, it's going to be about here. I have that plane change that I marked about there, and I want this dart to end kind of central to between this area, possibly a little bit toward the side seam. So I'm looking at having this dart end about here, which means I'm going to want this one starting roughly the center of the shoulder seam. So I'm hoping to put this dart about right here so that they're going to blend in nicely to each other. When you're draping, you don't always get the shoulder dart exactly where it belongs, but if you get it close, it's easy to just move it when you're balancing your pattern. So I've taken the darting out of the armhole, and I've moved it up here, and now I'm going to turn this into a dart. So I'm kind of just chasing that over, and it looks like some of it wants to come back out, so I'm going to let that come back down into there. People often make the dart in the shoulder a little bit too big. So I folded it over, and it looks like that. And I'm putting my pin in so it will hold still. I still like where this is. I could put a little bit more into that back dart, so I did. That's hanging more smoothly now. So this dart traditionally ends about the level of the armpit, but it's really going to depend on how your body is shaped or your dress form. You want to feel for the prominent end of the shoulder blade on the body. It's a very visual thing. So I'm going to end those there and mark where they're going to be coming to. This one should be right here where the pin is, and right there where I marked it. And then I'm just going to come from both sides. Oh, I need to move the camera. And that's going to be about there, but you see the wrinkling I'm getting? That's because the fabric is moving back out to a wider area from the narrower area. So you have to clip it so that it will hang nicely without those wrinkles. And that same thing will happen on the side seam if I don't trim some of that off. So I'm going to clip into there just so that it lays a little bit nicer. Okay, so now that can be smooth. This has been clipped. And this dart can come together smoothly without having wrinkles. And when you're draping, it's really the wrinkles that help you know where you're going and if you're doing it the right way. If you've got a wrinkle, then you want to adjust your pin so that you don't have a wrinkle there. So I need to ask myself if I'm pulling this over, and I could be, so I'm going to anchor that again. And I have a wrinkle coming from both directions, so I'm just going to take that pin out, come at it smoothly from both sides, and then when I put the pin in, grab both sides and back so that you have the pin actually anchoring it. And I think that's going to be fine when I have as much tension from the front side as the back. So I've finished draping it. Now I need to mark it. So I can feel where that line is. And I'm marking right where the line is. If you can't feel it, then you'd want to kind of peek under there and make sure you get it in the right place. And so I'm feeling, but I think I'm going to clip so I can see it. So my line is right here. So I'm putting a mark right there. And I'll clean that up a little bit when I have my front bodice there too. So I'm putting my ruler on, and I'm going to draw a straight line from one end to the other. So I already am starting out with a straight line right there. And I'm going to mark the underside of the dart where it meets the top side. This is the center, and the dart actually goes from where the center point of my pencil is to where my fingernail is. And while it's here, I'm going to fold that over, so I'm marking the plane change between the two. I don't want to mark it so that it wraps over and causes a curved line in the wrong direction. And then I've marked this down here, so I'm going to blend the curve so that I have a right angle for a little while. And then I'll clean that up a little bit when I have it on paper. So my next line is going to be straight from there to there. And because these little dress forms are handmade, that line, if you try to do it by feel, is probably going to end up to be curved. So I usually just use my ruler on it. I'll start at the beginning and the end and use my ruler. And then here is where my narrowest part is. And I'm just, because I've marked that on there, I'm just peeking at it to see where it is and bringing them together. So that is the back. I want to make sure that I mark all of my spaces. So both sides of the dart. I'm not going to mark the dart all the way from beginning to end because it's just messy. You just are going to put a straight line there. So one side, the other side, and the end is all you need for your darts. and everything is marked now, so I can take that off. I'm not going to take it off yet because I want to have my front combined with it, and then I'll do my skirt with it.